James Wilson looked at himself in the mirror and smiled. No one would know he was the CEO of Titan Motors today. He wore old blue jeans with a small hole in one knee. His t-shirt was plain and faded from many washes. On his feet were work boots, not the shiny leather shoes he usually wore. He had not shaved for 3 days, and his face had rough stubble. A baseball cap covered his normally neat hair. The change was complete. As the head of Titan Motors, one of the biggest car companies in the country, James was used to people treating him with great respect. Employees stood up when he walked into a room. People rushed to open doors for him. Everyone smiled and nodded at what he said. But today would be different. Today, he was just a regular guy looking to buy a truck. Titan Motors was having a problem. Their new line of trucks was not selling well. People were buying trucks from other companies instead. James had read all the reports and listened to all the experts, but he still didn't understand why customers didn't want Titan trucks. Sometimes you have to see things with your own eyes, James said to himself as he grabbed his old wallet and the keys to a rental car. He didn't take his usual driver or his luxury car. He wanted to experience what regular customers felt when they went to buy a truck. The plan was simple but risky. James would visit River City Trucks, his biggest competitor, and pretend to be a customer. He would see how they treated people, what they did differently, and why customers liked their trucks more than Titans. If anyone recognized him, it would be very embarrassing. The news might even hurt Titan's stock price, but James felt he had no choice. As he drove the plain rental car to River City Trucks, James thought about all the fancy features Titan had added to their trucks. They had the best sound systems, leather seats that could heat up or cool down, and screens that connected to phones. They had spent millions of dollars on these features, yet sales were going down, not up. The parking lot at River City Trucks was full. That was the first surprise. James had to park far from the entrance. As he walked across the lot, he looked at the customers. They were all kinds of people: construction workers in their dirty clothes, families with kids running around, older men in fishing hats, young women in business suits. River City seemed to appeal to everyone. James felt nervous as he approached the big glass doors. He had not felt nervous in years. Usually, he was the one making others nervous. But now he worried his disguise might not work. What if someone from River City had seen his picture in business magazines? What if they called security? Taking a deep breath, James pushed open the door and stepped inside. The showroom was bright and busy. Trucks of different colors and sizes filled the space. People walked around, looking at the vehicles, opening doors, sitting in driver's seats. Salespeople in blue shirts talked with customers, but they didn't seem pushy. There was a relaxed feeling in the air. A woman at the front desk smiled at James. "Welcome to River City Trucks. Can I help you find something today?" James pulled his cap lower over his eyes. "Just looking," he said in a voice different from his usual commanding tone. "Thinking about getting my first truck." "Take your time," she said. "Let me know if you have questions." She didn't try to direct him to a salesperson right away. That was different from Titan, where customers were handed off to salespeople within seconds. As James moved deeper into the showroom, he noticed something else strange. The trucks here didn't have as many fancy features as Titans. They seemed simpler, more basic. So why were they selling better? James was determined to find out. James walked slowly around the showroom, looking at each truck carefully. He touched the doors, sat in the driver's seats, and checked the prices. No one rushed him or pushed him to buy. This was very different from Titan Motors, where salespeople were trained to make a sale as fast as possible. After about 15 minutes, a man in a blue River City shirt came over to James. The man did not walk fast or look eager. He moved in a calm, friendly way. "How's your day going?" the salesman asked. His name tag said Bill. He didn't ask right away if James wanted to buy a truck. He just started a normal talk, like neighbors might have over a fence. "Fine. James said, still using his different voice. Just looking at trucks. Never owned one before. Bill nodded. No rush. First truck is a big choice. What kind of work do you do? This question surprised James. At Titan, salespeople asked about money first. How much customers could spend each month. They didn't ask about the customer's life or needs. I work in an office, James said, which wasn't a lie. But I'm thinking of getting a small place in the country. Might need to haul things. Bill smiled. That's good to know. Different jobs need different trucks. A truck for farm work isn't the same as one for taking the family camping. For the next 20 minutes, Bill asked James questions about his life. He wanted to know about James's plans for the country place, how far he would drive each day, if he had kids, if he would carry heavy loads. Bill did not talk about leather seats or fancy sound systems. He focused on how the truck would be used. Let me show you a few options that might work for you, Bill said when he understood James's fake needs. They walked to a row of mid-sized trucks. These were not the biggest or most expensive ones. James was surprised again. At Titan, salespeople always showed the most expensive models first. This one has great gas mileage, Bill said, pointing to a blue truck. And this red one can pull heavier loads, but costs more to run. As they talked, James saw other salespeople with customers. All around the showroom, people were having long, calm talks. No one seemed to be pushing for quick sales. There were no loud voices or flashy demonstrations. Near a white truck, James saw an older man talking with a young family. The man wasn't wearing a River City shirt. He looked like a customer too. Who's that? James asked Bill, pointing to the older man. That's Tom, Bill said with a smile. He bought his first River City truck 20 years ago. Still comes in every Saturday to talk trucks with new folks. Says it's his hobby now that he's retired. James couldn't believe it. A customer who loved the brand so much that he came back just to talk about the trucks. Titan didn't have customers like that. A woman brought coffee to some people sitting at a small table. Children played in a corner with toy trucks. An older couple sat in a truck, just feeling how comfortable it was. The whole place felt more like a community center than a business trying to sell things. Bill showed James the inside of a green truck. This one might be good for your country place. Not too big, good for hauling most things you'd need. Want to take it for a drive? James was about to say yes when the front doors opened. A man in an expensive suit walked in, followed by two other men in suits. James froze. He knew this man. It was Robert Chen, the owner of River City Trucks. James turned away quickly, pulling his cap lower. If Robert saw him here, in disguise, it would be very bad. James had met Robert at business meetings many times. Would Robert recognize him now, dressed like a regular person? Need a minute? Bill asked, noticing that James seemed nervous. Yes, James said. I need to use the bathroom. James walked quickly toward the back of the showroom, hoping to avoid Robert Chen. But as he hurried past a red truck, he bumped into someone. Sorry, James said, not looking up. No problem, said a deep, friendly voice. Taking your time is important when buying a truck. It's a big decision. James looked up and found himself face to face with Robert Chen. James's heart beat fast as he looked at Robert Chen. Would Robert know who he was? James had met him at least 10 times at business meetings and dinner parties. But now, in his old clothes and cap, would Robert see through his disguise? Robert smiled at James, but showed no sign that he knew him. First time looking for a truck? He asked in a friendly way. James nodded, not trusting his voice. He pulled his cap even lower. Well, you're in good hands with Bill, Robert said. He's been selling trucks here for 15 years. He knows them better than I do. Bill laughed. Mr. Chen is being nice. He knows every nut and bolt of these trucks. James was surprised that Bill called Robert Mr. Chen in front of a customer. At Titan, James had told his staff to call him by his first name when customers were around. He thought it made the company seem more friendly. But here, the respect in Bill's voice sounded genuine, not forced. I was just telling. Bill stopped, looking at James. John, James said quickly, giving a fake name. I was just telling John about the green truck for his country place. Bill continued. Robert nodded. Good choice. That model has won awards for being reliable. My brother has had one for 6 years, and it's never given him trouble. James was shocked again. The owner of River City was not pushing the newest or most expensive model. He was supporting Bill's suggestion based on what would work best for the customer. A woman called to Robert from across the room, and he excused himself. James breathed easier as Robert walked away. That was close, James thought. Too close. Bill showed James more features of the green truck. The seats were not leather, but they were comfortable. The sound system was not the best, but it worked well. Everything was good quality, but not fancy. The price was also much lower than similar trucks at Titan. Why don't we go for a test drive? Bill suggested. You need to feel how a truck handles on the road. They walked out to the parking lot together. James noticed that many customers were taking test drives. They were driving on normal roads, not just around the parking lot like at Titan. You drive, Bill said, handing James the keys. Go wherever you want. Take your time. At Titan, salespeople always drove first, showing off the truck's power and speed. Customers only got to drive at the end, and only for a short time. This was very different. James drove the green truck out of the lot and onto the main road. It felt strong and steady. Bill did not talk much during the drive. He let James feel the truck for himself. Mind if we go on the highway? James asked. He wanted to see how the truck handled at higher speeds. Sure, Bill said. This truck rides smooth at any speed. As they drove on the highway, a thought hit James. River City trucks were not as fancy as Titan trucks, but they were built for real life. They were made to last, to work hard, to be reliable. Titan had forgotten that most people wanted a truck that would not let them down, not one with heated seats and special lights. After 20 minutes, they returned to the dealership. James was thinking hard. He had learned more in 1 hour at River City than in months of reading reports at Titan. What do you think? Bill asked as they parked. I like it, James said honestly. It feels right. No need to decide today, Bill said, handing James a card. Take your time. Talk it over with your family. I'm here whenever you're ready. No pressure to buy right away. No special deals that ended today. No pushing. Just honest help and patience. This was not how Titan did business. As they walked back into the showroom, James saw an older man talking with a young couple by a blue truck. The older man was not a salesperson. He looked like a regular customer, just like the man Tom that Bill had pointed out earlier. Who's that? James asked, pointing to the older man. That's Frank, Bill said with a smile. One of our best customers. Been buying trucks here for 30 years. What's he doing? James asked. Helping, Bill said simply. Frank loves to talk trucks with new buyers. He knows more than most of us do. James couldn't believe it. Another loyal customer who came back just to help others. This was something special. Mind if I listen to what he's saying? James asked. Go right ahead, Bill said. I'll be at my desk when you're ready to talk more. James walked toward Frank, curious about what this loyal customer might say. James walked closer to Frank and the young couple. He pretended to look at a nearby truck, but he was really listening to their talk. Frank was an older man with gray hair and a friendly face. He wore simple clothes and had hands that showed years of hard work. I've had 5 River City trucks over 30 years, Frank was telling the couple. My first one lasted 12 years. Would have kept it longer, but my son needed a truck when he started his own business. The young man in the couple looked impressed. 12 years. My last truck from another company only lasted 4 years before things started breaking. Frank nodded. That's why I keep coming back here. These trucks are built to last. They're not the fanciest, but they're solid. My current truck is 8 years old and runs like new. James listened carefully. At Titan, they designed trucks to look exciting and new. They expected customers to trade in for newer models every few years. They didn't focus on making trucks that would still work well after 8 or 12 years. But what about all the new features other brands have? The young woman asked. The screens and special seats and things. Frank smiled. Those are nice, sure. But ask yourself, in 10 years, will those fancy screens still work? Will those special seats still feel good? The basics are what matter most in the long run. A strong engine, good brakes, a solid frame. The young couple nodded, thinking about this. And you know what else matters? Frank continued. How they treat you after you buy. Last winter, my truck wouldn't start in the cold. It was Sunday morning, and I needed to get feed to my animals. I called River City just hoping to get advice. You know what happened. The couple shook their heads. Mr. Chen himself drove out to my farm, brought parts with him and fixed my truck right there in the snow. Wouldn't take any money for it, even though the truck was out of warranty. James could hardly believe what he was hearing. Robert Chen, the owner of River City, personally helped customers with repairs. On weekends, James had never even visited a Titan dealership except for special events with cameras and reporters. That's amazing, the young man said. You don't get service like that these days. That's why I'm here talking to folks like you, Frank said. River City isn't just selling trucks. They're building relationships that last as long as their trucks do. Building relationships. Those words hit James hard. Titan focused on sales numbers, not relationships. They spent millions on TV ads, but almost nothing on keeping customers happy after the sale. Frank noticed James listening and smiled at him. You looking for a truck too, friend? James nodded, not wanting to say too much. First truck? Frank asked. Yes, James said. Never owned one before. Frank walked over to James, leaving the young couple to think about what he had said. Well, you're in the right place. What kind of work will you be doing with it? James repeated the story he had told Bill about buying a country place. Frank listened carefully. You don't need anything too fancy for that. Just reliable. Something that starts every morning and doesn't cost too much to fix when it needs work. James nodded again. This was very different advice from what Titan salespeople would give. They would try to sell the biggest, most expensive truck with all the extras. Can I give you some advice? Frank asked. Something I wish someone had told me when I bought my first truck. Please, James said, truly wanting to hear it. Don't just look at what's shiny and new. Frank said. Ask about parts. Are they easy to find? Ask about service. Will they help you when you need it? And ask other customers. Are they happy years after buying? Not just on the day they drive away. These were questions James had never thought about as the CEO of Titan. His company focused on making the sale, not what happened after. A truck isn't just a purchase, Frank continued. It's a 10-year relationship with the company that made it. Make sure it's a company that will still care about you when the truck is no longer new and shiny. James felt like Frank was teaching him the most important lesson of his career, and Frank didn't even know who he was talking to. Thank you, James said sincerely. That's very helpful. Anytime, Frank said with a smile. Now let me introduce you to the best salesperson here, a man named Bill. I've met him already, James said. He seems honest. They all are here, Frank said. That's why I keep coming back. As Frank walked away to help another customer, James stood thinking about everything he had heard. The words kept playing in his mind. A truck isn't just a purchase. It's a 10-year relationship. This was a completely new way of thinking for James. At Titan, they saw each sale as the end goal, not the beginning of a relationship. James walked around the showroom some more, watching how people talked with each other. Everywhere, he saw the same thing. Honest conversations, no pressure, and happy customers. Even people who didn't buy today seemed pleased with their visit. James noticed a wall near the back of the showroom. It was covered with pictures. He walked closer to see what they were. The wall was filled with photos of people with their River City trucks. Under each picture was a small sign with a name and number. "That's our wall of miles," said a voice behind him. James turned to see Bill. Each picture shows a customer whose truck has gone over 200,000 miles. Bill explained. Some have gone over 300,000. James looked at the wall with amazement. There were hundreds of pictures. At Titan, they never talked about how long their trucks lasted. They always focused on the newest models, not the old ones still on the road. "This one is my favorite," Bill said, pointing to a picture of an old man standing by a very old truck. "Mr. Johnson. His truck has 387,000 miles on it. Still runs. His grandson drives it now." James couldn't believe it. A truck with almost 400,000 miles. Titan would be embarrassed if customers kept their trucks that long. It would mean fewer new sales. "People come in just to get their picture on this wall," Bill said proudly. "It's like joining a special club." James thought about Titan's marketing plans. They spent millions on TV ads showing trucks doing impossible jumps or pulling huge loads. They never showed real people using trucks in real life for many years. "I need to think about all this," James said to Bill. "Can I come back another day?" "Of course," Bill said, giving James his card. "No rush. A truck is a big decision." As James walked toward the door, he saw Robert Chen talking with a mechanic in a work uniform. They were looking at a truck engine on display. The mechanic was pointing to parts and explaining something. Robert was listening carefully. James moved closer, curious about what they were discussing. "So the new design lasts longer?" Robert asked the mechanic. "Yes, sir," the mechanic said. "About 20% longer. It costs us a bit more to make, but customers will have fewer problems." "Then let's do it," Robert said. "I don't want to save a few dollars if it means customers have trouble later." James was shocked again. At Titan, they always looked for ways to make parts cheaper, not better. If a cheaper part meant more repair work later, that was seen as good for business because it meant more money from service. James had heard enough. He needed to leave before someone recognized him. He had learned more in 2 hours at River City than in 5 years as CEO of Titan. As James reached the door, he heard someone call out, "Hey, wait." James turned, worried. Had someone recognized him? Was his cover blown? It was Frank, the older customer who had given him advice. "Forgot to give you this," Frank said, handing James a small card. It wasn't a business card. It was a simple card with Frank's name and phone number. "If you have questions about trucks, just call me," Frank said. "Been using them for work all my life. Happy to help a new truck owner." James took the card, amazed once more. A customer who cared enough to help strangers. Who had ever heard of such a thing? "Thank you," James said, truly grateful. As James walked to his rental car, his mind was racing with new ideas. Everything he had seen at River City was different from how Titan worked, and River City was winning. Their sales were going up while Titan's were going down. "We've been doing it all wrong," James thought as he drove away. All wrong. He knew what he had to do now. It would not be easy. The board of directors would fight him. The marketing team would argue. But James had seen the truth with his own eyes. Titan needed to change, and he was going to make it happen. James drove straight to Titan Motors. It was Saturday, but he couldn't wait until Monday to start making changes. He parked his rental car in his special spot marked CEO. Then he remembered he was still in his disguise. He looked down at his old clothes and laughed to himself. The security guard at the door didn't recognize James at first. "Sir, this entrance is for employees only," the guard said. James took off his cap. "It's me, James Wilson." The guard's eyes got big. "Mr. Wilson, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't know it was you." "That's all right," James said. "Is anyone else here today?" "Yes, sir. Mr. Peterson from marketing is in his office, and Ms. Chen from design. Good, James said. Please call them both to the main meeting room. Tell them it's urgent. As the guard made the calls, James went to his office to get some paper. He needed to write down all the ideas in his head before he forgot anything. He didn't even take time to change his clothes. 10 minutes later, James walked into the meeting room. Tom Peterson and Linda Chen were already there, looking worried. They were surprised to see their boss in old jeans and a dirty t-shirt. Is everything okay, James? Linda asked. No, everything is not okay, James said, but it's going to be. James told them about his visit to River City Trucks. He left out the part about being in disguise. He just said he wanted to see what their competition was doing. We've been thinking about trucks all wrong, James said. We focus on fancy features and new models every year. River City focuses on making trucks that last and treating customers like family. Tom from marketing looked confused. But our research shows that customers want the newest features. They may say that in surveys, James said, but when they spend their money, they're choosing trucks that will last for 200,000 miles. River City has a wall full of pictures of customers whose trucks have gone that far. Linda from design nodded slowly. My father had a River City truck. Drove it for 15 years. Only sold it because he retired, not because it stopped working. Exactly, James said. And we need to start building trucks like that. James walked to the whiteboard and wrote 4 big words: quality, service, relationships, trust. These are the new focus areas for Titan Motors, James said. Starting today. Tom looked worried. But what about our new ads? We've spent millions on the campaign for the new features. Cancel them, James said firmly. Make new ads that show Titan trucks working hard year after year. Show real people using their trucks for real work. Linda smiled. I've been saying for years that we should focus more on quality than on new features. My team will be happy to hear this. And that's not all, James said. I want to start a new service program. If any Titan truck breaks down, we'll fix it fast, even on weekends, even if the warranty is over. Tom's eyes got wide. That will cost a lot of money. Maybe at first, James agreed, but it will build trust, and trust will bring more customers. I saw it working at River City. James looked at his 2 surprise managers. I know this is a big change, but we need to stop thinking about quick sales and start thinking about long relationships with our customers. Linda nodded, like the saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Exactly, James said. We've been going fast, but not far. Now we need to go far with our customers. James pulled out his phone and showed them pictures he had secretly taken of the wall of miles at River City. I want one of these walls in every Titan dealership. I want customers to be proud of how long their Titan trucks last. Tom and Linda looked at the pictures with interest. These people love their trucks, Linda said softly. Yes, James said. And I want people to love Titan trucks the same way. James thought about Frank, the customer who had given him advice without knowing he was talking to the CEO of a rival company. There's one more thing, James said. I want to start a customer advisory group. Real truck owners who can tell us what they need and want. People who use their trucks every day for work. Tom and Linda nodded, starting to understand James's new vision. Get some rest this weekend, James told them. On Monday, we have a lot of work to do. We're going to change Titan Motors from the ground up. As Tom and Linda left, James stayed in the meeting room, looking at the 4 words he had written on the board. He felt excited about the future for the first time in months. Monday morning came, and James arrived at work early. He wore his usual suit, but he felt like a different person. The lessons from River City Trucks had changed how he saw the truck business. At 9 o'clock, James called all the top managers to the big meeting room. 20 people came, looking curious and a little worried. Big sudden meetings often meant bad news. "Thank you all for coming," James began. "I have important news. Our company needs to change. And it needs to change now." People looked at each other with worry on their faces. Was the company in trouble? Would there be job cuts? "Don't worry," James said, seeing their faces. "Titan Motors is not going out of business. But we need to think in a new way about what business we are really in." James told them about his visit to River City Trucks. This time, he admitted he had gone in disguise. "I wanted to see how they treat regular customers," he explained, "not how they treat the CEO of Titan Motors." Some people laughed, but most looked surprised that their boss would do such a thing. James wrote the same 4 words on the board that he had written on Saturday: quality, service, relationships, trust. "We've been trying to win by having the newest features," James said. "But River City is winning by building relationships that last for years. Their customers come back again and again. Some even come back just to help new customers." The sales manager raised his hand. "But our bonus system rewards selling new trucks. We don't get anything for keeping old customers happy." "That will change today," James said firmly. "From now on, part of everyone's bonus will depend on customer happiness, not just sales numbers." The room buzzed with talk. This was a big change. "And there's more," James continued. "Our design team will focus on making trucks that last longer, even if that costs more. Our service team will help customers even after the warranty ends. Our marketing will show real people using Titan trucks for many years, not just shiny new trucks doing crazy jumps." The marketing manager spoke up. "But the flashy ads work. They get attention." "They get attention," James agreed, "but they don't build trust. And trust is what brings customers back." For the next hour, James laid out his plan to change Titan Motors. Some managers nodded and took notes. Others looked doubtful. Big changes were never easy. "I know this will be hard," James said at the end. "We've done things the old way for a long time. But the world has changed, and we need to change too." As the meeting ended, people filed out talking in low voices. Some looked excited. Others looked worried. Change was scary, but staying the same while losing sales was scarier. James went back to his office and sat down heavily in his chair. He knew the next few months would be hard. The board of directors might fight his new plan. Some managers might quit. Dealers might complain about the new rules. But James felt sure he was right. The success of River City proved it. People wanted trucks they could trust from a company that cared about them, not just about quick sales. James pulled out the card Frank had given him at River City. He looked at the simple name and phone number. Frank had no idea he had given advice to the CEO of Titan Motors. He was just being helpful to someone who needed guidance. That's the kind of company we need to be, James thought. Helpful, honest, caring about people more than money. James picked up his phone and called his assistant. "Janet, please set up a meeting with all our dealers for next week," he said, "and find a team that can build customer service centers at all our dealerships." "Customer service centers?" Janet asked, sounding surprised. "Yes," James said, "places where truck owners can come for help, even on weekends. Places that feel welcoming, not just for people buying new trucks." As he hung up, James looked out his office window at the Titan factory in the distance. Big changes were coming. Not everyone would like them. But James knew it was the right path forward. "We've been selling trucks," he said to himself, remembering Frank's words. "Now we need to build relationships." 6 months passed. Changing Titan Motors was not easy. Some managers left. Some dealers complained. The board of directors asked hard questions about the money being spent on the new plans. But James did not give up. He believed in his new vision. Every time someone complained, he told them about his visit to River City and what he had learned. The first big change was in the trucks themselves. Linda and her design team worked day and night to make Titan trucks stronger and more reliable. They used better parts, even though they cost more. They tested everything to make sure it would last for many years. Our goal is 300,000 miles, Linda told her team. I want people driving these trucks 10 years from now. The second change was in service. Titan built new service centers at all dealerships. They were open 7 days a week. They had comfortable waiting areas with free coffee and Wi-Fi. Most important, they had good mechanics who fixed problems right the first time. James also started the customer advisory group. He invited truck owners from all over the country to tell Titan what they liked and didn't like. Some of these meetings were hard to sit through. People had many complaints about old Titan trucks, but James listened to every word and promised to do better. The third change was in marketing. Tom and his team made new ads showing real people using Titan trucks for work. No more impossible jumps or trucks climbing mountains. Instead, they showed farmers, builders, and small business owners who counted on their trucks every day. Titan trucks, built for the long haul, became the new slogan. The biggest change was in how dealers sold trucks. No more pushing for quick sales. No more trying to sell the most expensive model to everyone. Instead, salespeople took time to find out what each customer really needed. We're not just selling a truck today, James told the dealers. We're starting a 10-year relationship. For the first 3 months, sales did not go up. In fact, they went down a little. The board of directors was worried. Some wanted to go back to the old ways. Give it time, James asked them. Real change doesn't happen overnight. By the 4th month, something started to happen. Customer satisfaction scores began to rise. People who came in for service often left positive reviews online. Some even brought cookies or donuts for the service team. In the 5th month, sales began to rise. Not by a lot, but the trend was up, not down. People were coming to Titan because friends had told them good things about the new trucks and the new service. Now, in the 6th month, Titan was selling more trucks than they had in the past year. The changes were working. Focusing on relationships instead of quick sales was paying off. James sat in his office looking at the latest sales report. The numbers made him smile, but that wasn't what made him happiest. What made him happiest were the letters and emails from satisfied customers. My Titan truck started right up after the big storm when nothing else would. The service team stayed late to fix my truck before my big job the next day. My son is buying his first truck, and I told him to get a Titan just like mine. These messages told James that Titan was on the right path. There was a knock on his door. Janet, his assistant, came in with an envelope. "This just came for you, Mr. Wilson," she said. James opened the envelope. Inside was an invitation to speak at the National Truck Dealers Association annual meeting. The topic, Building Customer Relationships in the Truck Industry. James smiled. 6 months ago, no one would have asked him to speak about customer relationships. Titan had been known for flashy trucks, not for caring about customers. But things had changed. As he put the invitation on his desk, James thought about Frank, the River City customer who had given him such good advice. James never told Frank who he really was. Frank had just been trying to help someone he thought was a first-time truck buyer. One person can make a big difference, James thought. Frank changed Titan motors without even knowing it. James picked up his phone. He had an idea. A way to thank Frank for the advice that had saved his company. 1 year had passed since James visited River City Trucks in disguise. Titan Motors was doing better than ever. Sales were up. Customer satisfaction was at an all-time high. Even the board of directors, who had worried about the changes, now agreed that James had been right. Today was a special day. Titan was opening its 100th new customer service center. This one was in the same town as River City Trucks. James had picked this location on purpose. The new building was bright and welcoming. It had a large waiting area with comfortable chairs, free drinks, and toys for children. The service bays were clean and modern. Most important, it had good people who cared about helping customers. For the opening, James had invited the press. He had also sent a special invitation to someone who didn't know why he was being invited, Frank from River City Trucks. As people gathered for the opening ceremony, James felt nervous. Would Frank come? Would he recognize James as the man in disguise from a year ago? "Mr. Wilson, it's time to start," Janet said. James walked to the front of the crowd. Reporters raised their cameras. Employees stood proudly in their new Titan uniforms. And there, in the back, was Frank, looking a bit confused about why he had been invited. "Thank you all for coming," James began. "Today we open our 100th Customer Service Center. This is part of Titan's new focus on building long relationships with our customers." The crowd applauded. James continued, explaining how Titan had changed in the past year. He talked about the better trucks, the improved service, and the new way of treating customers. "But I didn't come up with these ideas on my own," James said. "I learned them from someone else. Someone who doesn't even know how much he helped Titan Motors." The crowd looked curious. Who was this mystery person? "A year ago, I visited a competitor's dealership in disguise," James admitted. "I wanted to see why they were selling more trucks than we were." People laughed, surprised that a CEO would do such a thing. "While I was there, a customer named Frank gave me advice about buying a truck. He told me something I'll never forget. He said, 'A truck isn't just a purchase. It's a 10-year relationship with the company that made it.'" James looked directly at Frank in the back of the room. "Frank, would you please come up here?" Frank looked shocked. He pointed to himself as if to ask, "Me?" Then he slowly walked to the front. "Frank, you don't recognize me, do you?" James asked. Frank looked carefully at James in his nice suit. He shook his head. "No, sir. I don't think we've met." "We have," James said with a smile. "I was the man in the old jeans and cap who said he was buying his first truck. You gave me your card and offered to help." Frank's eyes got wide. "That was you? The CEO of Titan Motors?" "Yes," James said. "And your advice changed everything for our company. You taught me that businesses should focus on relationships, not just sales." The crowd applauded. Frank looked embarrassed but pleased. "To thank you," James continued, "Titan Motors would like to give you the very first truck from our new line. It's built to last 300,000 miles. It's the best truck we've ever made." James handed Frank a set of keys. The crowd cheered as a shiny new Titan truck was driven into view. On its side was a special message, "Built for Frank, the man who taught us what matters." Frank's eyes filled with tears. "I was just trying to help," he said. "I had no idea who you were." "That's what made your advice so valuable," James said. "You were just being honest and helpful." As Frank walked over to look at his new truck, reporters took pictures and asked questions. But James was thinking about the bigger picture. 1 year ago, he had been worried about falling sales. Now he was leading a company that people trusted and respected. All because he had put on old clothes, visited a competitor, and heard a customer's life-altering advice. Sometimes, James thought, the best way to lead is to listen. The end.